All right. So let's cover what we're doing. Okay, so we're doing alternate history stuff for today. And I want to start out by covering so we're going to do the results for game 3 of the opening round, which was, again, actually done a little while back, about a month ago, around a month ago, was actually run by one of the community members, the one and only Atesh, who I think is in the chat here as what's the chat name on Twitch? Mr. Barbarian 170, if I have that correct, is also here. So I'm going to show the results for that in just a second. But basically, this was the opening round game where we had, what was it? It was the Wynakoppak and Hannibal game, where most of the people, almost everybody was surprised because it ended up going to, what was it? Sitting Bull was the winner, and then Frederick came in second place, and everybody was like, what the heck happened there? Yeah, the rise of Standing Bull. So let's go ahead and look at the results from that game. I'll switch this over. I got to switch this over to the desktop so you can actually see. All right, so where is the pictures here? So I'll start out by showing the screenshots from the individual games. Here we go. Okay, so here were the results. Okay, this first screenshot, it looks like Atesh didn't capture the bar on the right, but this is a Wynakoppak victory. Here we go. Okay, and then we have a very surprising Hannibal victory. This was in game 2 of the alternate histories. And then Wynakoppak cultural victory, a Sitting Bull victory, so he did win at least one other game in there. Wynakoppak, Willem winning a domination victory, another Wynakoppak cultural victory. A Willem diplomatic victory, although it looks like he was pretty dominant in this game anyway. A domination victory by Willem. Cultural victory by Wynakoppak. Another Willem victory. Okay, so you might be starting to get the pattern here. Most of these victories are by Wynakoppak or by Willem, are the two. The orange and the yellow winning a lot of these. A Shaka victory, somewhat bit of a combo breaker there. Wynakoppak. A Frederick domination victory. Wynakoppak cultural victory. Sitting Bull with another victory. Frederick with the domination victory. And then Willem, another Willem, and then Shaka there in the last game. So let's look at the overview results. Here's the table. The screenshot that Atesh sent over here to me with all the individual winners. And then this is the data spreadsheet, a little bit small, but this is probably what you really want. This is the summary in terms of how things ultimately played out here. So Willem and Wynakoppak were pretty clearly the strongest AIs on this map based on the alternate histories. Again, I did not run these, but I did have a chance to do the write-up. Well, not do the write-up. Atesh did the write-up, but I turned it into HTML, so I had a chance to read it, and he's also giving you some more details in the chat. So Willem was apparently the strongest leader on this map overall because he not only won about a third of the time, roughly. When he didn't win, he also had good runner-up potential as well. And if you notice, he only had 5% first to die odds. So he wasn't too likely to die. By contrast, Wynakoppak won about as often as Willem. I mean, he has 7 victories here to 6 for Willem, but like that's not statistically significant. What Atesh said in the alternate histories was Wynakoppak was more boom or bust. If he didn't win the game with like some kind of a cultural victory, he was a lot less likely to finish in second. So that was kind of the difference there. Was Willem was stronger overall. He was a more consistent leader on this map. They might have similar scores here, but like Willem was more consistently victorious, and Wynakoppak got a little bit luckier. As he's putting in the chat right now, Wynakoppak needed to kill Sitting Bull or have Sitting Bull be weak. In any game where Sitting Bull was strong, it went poorly for Wynakoppak, which is of course what we got on the live stream. We had a game where Sitting Bull was actually strong, and that meant if he was strong, Wynakoppak was pretty irrelevant in those games because Wynakoppak was pretty squeezed on land in this game. So as far as what we saw, the biggest difference between the game we saw and some of these alternate histories was Willem and Wynakoppak going to war. Apparently they didn't fight that much in the alternate histories, and that was the one thing that really created the opportunity for Sitting Bull to be strong and for Frederick to be strong in the game that we watched. That one early war declaration between Willem and Wynakoppak, not very likely. I mean, I believe it did happen occasionally, but it was pretty unlikely, and then that's kind of what threw our game off. As far as the other leaders, Hannibal was just, he didn't have enough land. Like Hannibal's land was just, he was really squeezed on land, and the land he did have was a lot of tundra. It was actually not that bad in terms of commerce. And Atesh said that Hannibal was pretty competitive on tech in these games, but he was very low on production. So he was actually pretty good at getting second place finishes. You can see he had the most second place finishes. In particular, he often was a second place finisher behind Wina Kopak, but he could also be a second place finisher sometimes if one of the two Northern leaders would have a good game, just because he was really far away from Frederick and Sitting Bull. So he was like really good at being a runner-up, but he was unlikely to win the game overall. Frederick, as Atesh said, Frederick, not a good ally. He did not do a great job with his starting position. He did win a couple games, but Freddy kind of showed why he's not a very good AI in these games. Kind of showed that he's really not a very good... Like, if you swap Frederick and Hannibal's starting position, Hannibal would have dominated this map, because that was a pretty good starting position up there in the northeast corner. I suppose I should also put the map back on screen again. This was the map, by the way, with Freddy up here in the northeast, Hannibal in the southeast. You can see the colors here. The only thing that's weird about this is Hannibal has the blue borders, because we had too many people with a orange-yellow color in this particular game. Freddy just was not a very good leader. He would fall way behind because the starting techs that he has as Germany, and his tech emphases just kind of caused him to have really weak openings, like, over and over again. If he could actually make it to the mid game, I think Atesh said that he was reasonably decent, but like his openings were really bad. And his best path for success was killing Shaka. That was like his path to victory. Similarly, Shaka was a pretty popular pick on this map. If I remember the picking contest, we had a number of people picking him to win, and if not to win, then at least to second. Here's the picks from before the game took place. So Wina Kopak was the favorite, but like, look, Shaka's the most popular for second place, and then for second who would be. This is who would win the game. Shaka's actually the second most popular pick for who's going to win, and he was also quite popular for who would come in second place. No, needless to say, basically nobody picked him to be first to die. But that was not the case in terms of the alternate histories, because Atesh said he thought that Shaka was pretty clearly the weakest leader in the field. Now, Sitting Bull had worse results in terms of like actual score, but Shaka's two victories were very, very unlikely, was what he said, that this almost certainly overstates how good Shaka is. And Shaka's performance was just really bad on this map. He just didn't really manage his economy well at all, and he largely just went off and committed suicide in a lot of these games. Also, yes, Willem was much, much stronger than we thought. Thank you for putting that in the chat. That Willem turned out to have more land than we thought, because every leader near him expanded in the opposite direction. Again, going back to the map. Whoops, that's the wrong image, but we can cycle over here. As it turned out, everybody like Shaka expanded to the north, Wina Kopak, it went to the east. So like it looked like Willem was super cramped, but it turned out he actually had more land than expected. And there was a surprising amount of river tiles here too. So he actually had pretty good land, and he had more space than people thought. So Willem was better than people thought. And in a game where Willem did not waste the early game fighting Wina Kopak, when the inevitable Shaka war declaration came, Willem just straight up killed Shaka in a whole bunch of these games over and over again. Yeah, in Game 9, Willem literally Zara'd Shaka, by that meaning killed Shaka before he could connect any of his metal resources. So not a good game from Shaka. He did very poorly in this setup. And Sitting Bull could be strong, but in most games he got dogpiled pretty early. You can see he was the favorite for first to die, so if you picked him first to die, you were not wrong. That was the correct pick, but it just didn't happen over here in the game that we watched on live stream. So Sitting Bull actually had pretty good land. The problem for him was diplomatically, he was in a really rough position. He did not get ganged up on in the game we watched on live stream, but he very much did in a lot of these other games. And if he was in like a 3v1, there just wasn't a lot he could do. So yeah, the field was pretty stacked against him. But in terms of the overall picture, this game was not like Game 1. Game 1 was the one where Frederick won, not Frederick, when, what's his name? Hammurabi won, and it was like an utterly absurd result. Let me give you the stats from when we did the alternate histories. So here's the alternate histories from that game. When we did the alternate, remember, Hammurabi won this game. He won a domination victory. Look at the results. He never won a game. He had 1 out of 20 runner-up finishes. He had a 10% survival rate, and he was first to die 50% of the time. But he won the game we watched on live stream. That was an absurdly unlikely result. That was probably like a 1 in 100 result, Hammurabi winning. So Sitting Bull winning was not like that. Sitting Bull did have a chance to win this game, but it wasn't likely that he would win this game. He ended up having, what? He won twice, so 10% odds in the alternate histories. That was probably about right. He probably wins about 1 in 10 times. So not likely, but still could happen. So kind of a weird result from this map. Clearly the AIs who should have moved on were probably some combination of Willem, Wynakopek, Hannibal. Some combination, like 2 of these 3 probably should have moved on. Hannibal in likely with the 2nd place, one of these 2 with the 1st place. Instead, we got Frederick Sitting Bull, which, like, okay, I mean, I guess could happen, but was definitely not a likely outcome. So this was another place where the results were just kind of weird, and it's part of the reason why we ended up with so many high piece weights in the playoffs, which I think has kind of thrown the competition in a bit of a wacky direction. But if you're one of the people who's like, wow, this year the high piece weights just did so well, it was kind of lucky that they did so well, to be fair. So I don't think it's like Sitting Bull is actually this amazing AI that we haven't recognized, or Hannibal is like way better than we thought. I think it's that they kind of got lucky in these games. But that's why we do the games. That's why they're fun, is sometimes unpredictable stuff happens. I will mention that the write-up for this game that Atesh did with a little bit of help from Oops, I think also helped a bit on this. I did just post it to the website. So if you would like to read the written report, which has a lot more information, it'll be, I'm going to link it in the chat here. And I'm also recording this for YouTube, so I'll also put it underneath the video description if you're watching this on YouTube. So more alternate histories content to come. All right, there we go. So there we go. That link should work. This was maybe, I'd say it's like was like a 5 to 10% outcome, something like that. But yeah, if you want to read the full write-up, I just linked it in the chat for you, and it's up on the website now. And I'll when I'm done with the stream, I'll post another link to that. Yeah, more like a 1 in 10, so like maybe 10% odd.